You've been farther from home than you let anyone know. Not physically, but there's a version of yourself, a version of your life that feels like a distant country right now, and you've been there long enough that you started calling it normal. You got good at performing the version of yourself that had it together, that was handling it, that was fine. But in the quiet, you knew something got away from you. Maybe it was a relationship, a sense of purpose, a version of yourself you used to believe in without trying. Maybe you can't even name what it was, just that somewhere along the way you ended up somewhere you never really planned to be. And the longer you stayed, the harder it became to imagine the way back. Well, Jesus tells a story about this, and for 2,000 years, people have read it as a lesson about forgiveness. It isn't about forgiveness, it's about that one internal shift that changes everything. The single moment that moves before anything on the outside does. And almost nobody caught it. And here's the story. A young man walks up to his father and asks for his inheritance now, while the father is still alive. And in that culture, that just isn't disrespectful. That's essentially telling your father, you wish he were already dead. And the father doesn't argue, doesn't negotiate, doesn't make him earn it. He just gives it to him. And then the son leaves, goes to a distant country, and spends everything fast, like really fast. The way you spend when you're trying to feel like someone you're not sure you are. And then it's gone. And the friends disappear with the money. A famine hits the region. And then the only job available is feeding pigs for a stranger, which for his culture was as low as a human being could go. And he's so hungry that the slop he's throwing starts looking like a meal. This is the bottom, okay? Not the dramatic bottom, not the cinematic rock bottom with the swelling score, the quiet one. The one where you're just there, like in the middle of a life you don't recognize. And the worst part isn't the circumstances. The worst part is you stopped believing you were the kind of person who deserved anything different. You started identifying as the ruined version. And here's where Jesus does something that gets read past every single time. He doesn't say the son prayed his way out. He doesn't say God intervened. He says he came to himself. 4 words, the entire mechanism of the story sitting right there. He came to himself means he stopped inhabiting the identity of the ruined version. He remembered who he was before the distant country, before the spending, before the field. He made a decision, still broke, still in the dirt, still surrounded by pigs and everything that said, you can't go back. And he said, my father's servants eat better than this. I'm going home. I'll tell him I'm not worthy to be called his son. I'll ask to be a servant. Now, most people focus on the humility in that speech, but look at what he actually did. He assumed himself out of that field before he even took a single step. The identity shifted first, then he got up, and then he walked. Now, whether you call it faith or assumption, the mechanism is identical. The outer world didn't move first. It never does. The son changed what he assumed he was. In a pig field, with nothing in his pockets, and everything stacked against the idea that going back was even possible. And then he walked. Now watch what happens when he gets close to home. The father sees him from a long way off, which means the father was looking every single day since the son left. Someone was standing somewhere they could see the road, not hoping, not wishing, assuming. The father never stopped seeing his son as his son, even when the son had completely stopped seeing himself that way. And the moment he sees him, he doesn't wait, he runs. And in that culture, a man of his age and status did not run. Running was beneath him. But he didn't care. He gets to his son before he can even finish the apology. He rehearsed the whole way home. He cuts him off mid-sentence. Bring the robe, the ring, the sandals, prepare a feast. No trial, no probation, no list of conditions. Just welcome back. The reunion already existed. The father was already living inside the end of the story while the son was still in that field. That's finished creation in one image. The feast was already prepared. The son just had to assume himself back into it. Creation is finished. Your assumption is the channel. Now look, I know some of you have been in that field a long time. Not because you're not strong enough to leave, but because you forgot you were ever anything other than the person who ended up there. The distant country has a way of doing that. It doesn't take your identity all at once. It just gradually makes the ruined version feel like the real one. But here's what the wizard sees. You've been performing fine for so long that you almost convinced yourself. Almost. There's still something in you that remembers, something that knows the difference between the life you are living and the life you assumed before everything happened. And that thing, that quiet knowing, that's not nostalgia. That's the father standing at the edge of the road, still looking, still assuming you are coming back. You don't have to have it figured out before you start walking. The son didn't. He had a half formed speech and a long road and a hunger that finally got loud enough to move him. That's enough. Come to yourself. Not to a plan, not to a perfect apology, not to a version of yourself that has earned the right to go back. Just remember who you are underneath everything that happened and walk toward it. The father isn't waiting at the door with a verdict, he's already running down the road. The only question is whether you're still standing in the field or whether something in you just remembered you don't have to be. The feast already has your name on it. The only thing that was ever missing was the version of you that assumed it was true. And remember, this wizard believes in you.